One of these photos was shot with an iPhone 14 Pro Max at 48 megapixels, and the other was shot with a full frame DSLR camera, the Lumix S5. Now, I've done these tests before, and I've fooled quite a few of you, but there's always one thing that gives it away, especially in automotive photography. But I found the solution, and I'm curious, will you guys be able to tell the difference? There are a ton of iPhone comparisons out there on the internet, but I wanted to take mine a step up and see if I really could convince you guys if the iPhone 14 Pro Max has what it takes to compete against larger cameras. So I reached out to the guys at Moment because they have CPL filters that you can mount to your phone, and asked if they wanted to partner with me on this video. So I've got this really nice case from Moment. What it allows me to do is take this plastic piece and mount it on the back of my lens here so that I can then mount this CPL filter onto the back of my phone. We wanted the CPL so we can cut reflections off of our car and add a little bit more vibrance and saturation to the image on our iPhone. So let's take this out to Canmore, Alberta. We're gonna take a photo of my car out in the beautiful Rocky Mountains. So I'm gonna be using the Apple iPhone 14 Pro Max, and this has now 4 different focal lengths in here, and you can shoot up to 48 megapixels with this camera, which is absolutely insane. So the first thing you gotta do is go into your phone and set it up so that you have 48 megapixel raw photos. You go into your camera settings, into formats, and then make sure that your raw pixels is at 48 megapixels. Then when you go into your camera, you can actually hit that raw button up in the top corner, and then that'll set you up to have raw photography. So I'm trying to balance as much as we can between the full frame camera and the iPhone, and there's a few other barriers we've got to get through to equal the playing field between the phone and the full frame camera. So let's get into that. One of the benefits that the full frame camera has is that you can manually adjust your exposure. So we're gonna have to use an app on the iPhone called Moment to be able to control our ISO. We wanna set our ISO as low as we possibly can, and then use our shutter speed to adjust our exposure. I haven't found any way to control our aperture, but we're gonna set our Lumix to an aperture of around 4. Here's where things get interesting. Previously in automotive photography, you need a CPL filter to take out any of the reflections on the windshield. So we're just gonna screw a CPL filter onto the iPhone, and then we're gonna have an equal playing field. So we'll see if you guys can actually tell the difference now between the cameras. On the Lumix here, we've got all the settings set to an aperture of 4, a shutter speed of 320, and an ISO of 100. And then over here on the Moment app, we've got the ISO as low as we can. We've tried to match the shutter speed there, so around 317. And we've got the raw photo capabilities up there. And so the CPL is on the phone, so we're gonna take that photo, switch over the CPL, and then we'll take the photo on the Lumix. Got the filter set up there. All right, so I just finished editing the photos in Lightroom, and it's actually pretty incredible how close you can get the iPhone to the actual DSLR camera. I used the photo that we shot on the Lumix as the reference photo, trying to do the best photo that I could with that camera, and then tried to match the iPhone as closely as possible, seeing how far I could actually push that raw data. And I'm very, very impressed. Now, of course, if you are a pixel peeper, you're going to be able to zoom in and tell that there is a pretty big difference between shooting on a DSLR and an iPhone when it comes to getting into the granular details. But what I wanted to figure out is if you actually print it and you can't zoom in, is that print gonna come out mushy, or does it look good, and does it compare well to an actual DSLR? Okay, here are both of the photos, and if you are asking me, it is incredibly difficult to tell which is which. If you did not know that one of these was taken on an iPhone, I don't really think that there's much here to give it away, to be honest, because I know the tells, I know what they are. I'm curious how taking a photo on a phone, then printing it and putting it in the frame, and then taking a video of it and putting it on the internet, very curious how that'll translate, but I'll put both of the images up here for you guys. take a good look at them. Let's see if you guys can figure out which one is which. Now, I will talk about the editing process a little bit. There were some actual advantages, of course, to using a proper DSLR camera. I felt like the highlights, I had a lot more latitude, specifically in the Lumix. I know that they have a lot of dynamic range in the highlights. I was able to bring back a lot of the details in the shadows of the iPhone photo without it introducing a lot of noise, which is what I was most impressed by. My objective was to retain as much of the highlights as I can while still maximizing the details in the shadows. As impressive as it is being able to get the iPhone photo as close as I did to the Lumix, there are still some limitations. It's not perfect. I still have to do some noise reduction. So one does have an advantage, but when you see them both printed, they both look pretty darn good, and I'd be more than happy to put these up in my home somewhere. So I'm gonna put up the results on the screen here, and this is the iPhone photo, and this was the photo shot with the Lumix. To me, it's absolutely crazy. You have to actually be able to know the little precise details. For example, there's a little tiny bit more depth of field in the Lumix, which again is a choice, and I chose to use an aperture of 4. If I had opened that up, that wouldn't have been a problem. We wouldn't have been able to notice it as much. And the sky with the photo with the Lumix camera, I was able to bring back those highlights. It's a little softer, and to me, it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye. One thing that I was pretty impressed with the iPhone photo is when you shoot in RAW, it kind of takes away that over sharpening look that you often get with iPhones. So I was actually really impressed to see that kind of was taken away to some degree. I was also super impressed in these kind of mountainous areas in the background, how much detail was actually retained by, of course, both cameras, but the iPhone, and how impressive it was. I was able to draw out so much of the detail in the background. Using the 48 megapixels, I think it is absolutely insane, and I'm blown away with these results. So be honest in the comments down below. Did you pick right? Were you able to spot the differences early on? If you were able to see it, let me know what you guys think were the big giveaways down below. If you weren't, I mean, just be honest and say you didn't see it, because I think it's actually a really cool thing to say that our iPhones are getting this close to professional DSLR cameras. And with a few accessories, specifically in automotive photography, you can now balance the scales between a proper DSLR camera and an iPhone. Obviously, we were cutting out reflections, but I'm absolutely crazy impressed by the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and I'm often leaving my camera at home. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. For those of you that stayed this far, thank you so much. I want to give you an additional 25% off my already on sale presets. So just use this code here, and I highly recommend checking out the Lightroom toolkit. It is not a one-size-fits-all preset. You get to stack different filters on top of each other to make your vision come to life for your car photography. Other than that, I really do appreciate your guys' time, and if you haven't subscribed already, press this button here and consider watching this video. You might enjoy it, but otherwise, guys, I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.